Hey everyone, welcome to another outdoor intrigue video. We're here in the Scottish Highlands as usual, bringing you a bit of a gear review on this, the Bonfus Iterus 38L pack. It's a pack that I've had for over a year now, put hundreds of miles on, used it for all sorts of different trips in the mountains, so I thought it was about time to tell you what I think. To start off with, Bonfus are a small Norwegian company, a cottage manufacturer. They manufacture their gear mostly in Mexico now, and they've been around for a couple of years. They do quite a few different gear options, all ultralight kit, shelters, packs, and a few different accessories for their packs. They're pretty cool, definitely worth taking a look at if you're interested in that kind of thing. This pack, the Bonfus 38L, is a 38L pack, as it says up top. It weighs in the material I have, which is the white DCF 2.92, which is kind of the denier that they use, as 300 grams on my scales, so very, very light. It's a frameless pack, so there's no frame in it. You have to think about how you're packing it and how much weight you put in it. It has a lightly padded set of straps for your shoulders. It's a roll top closure, which as standard comes with velcro on the roll top. There's obviously compression straps on the top and the side. The compression strap on top is like a V strap, so you can store extra things underneath it, which is really nice. It has a sternum strap on the front, and it comes with a really minimalistic waist belt, but you can buy other options, as I'll show you. Now, that's the kind of basics of the pack. Let's jump into a little bit more detail about the pack. Let's talk about the good things about this pack, the bad things about this pack, and just stuff you might want to know about this pack. So what are some of the really good features about this pack? Well, first of all, hard to miss, the main reason you'll buy this pack probably is its weight. It's incredible. For a 38L pack, it only weighs 300 grams, which is ridiculously light, to be perfectly honest. You know that what you're getting is one of the lightest packs on the market of that size, but obviously, we'll talk about it in a little bit, there are some sacrifices made for that. One of those is not toughness though. It is DCF in a decent denier and a really well-made pack. The stitching and quality that they've used and that they seem to maintain on their items seems to be really high. And the material, as I say, is tough and strong. I've dragged this pack up and down hills and mountains. I've not babied it. There's no damage to it whatsoever. You get the normal folding and creases that you get from DCF, but there's no holes in it, no other issues. It still looks like it's got hundreds more miles, maybe even thousands more miles on it. So I think there's no issue on that front. You might be paying a premium and it is ultralight, but it is a very tough pack, which is really nice. I also really like on this pack that it is largely completely waterproof. Much like other DCF packs on the market, when they use DCF and then they seam seal, or bond it on the inside on the seams and the stitching, what you get is a pack that once you roll your top closure up is almost entirely waterproof. You will sometimes get some slight water ingress if you're out in like torrential rain hiking for 12 hours, as I have been many times with this pack. Sometimes I've found that I'll be out for 12 hours in torrential rain or whatever it happens to be, or all day, and it will have no water ingress. Everything inside's completely dry, not a drop of water, and other times there is a little bit of water. So I don't know, I haven't figured out exactly how the water gets in, whether it's through the roll top closure at the top or where I'm putting the pack down occasionally on really wet ground. But either way, you're getting like 97% waterproof, I would say. I still put my most important items in dry bags, because that is the way that I would always suggest doing things. Like if I'm out on an overnighter and I want my quilt and my sleeping gear to stay dry, then that stuff I will put into a dry bag to make sure 100% that it's going to stay dry. But realistically, most of the time you could probably use this pack without any liner or dry bags and you'd still have your gear almost entirely dry, particularly if you live somewhere that isn't one of the wettest places in the world. The other things I like about this pack are the simplicity. So it's really minimalistic and simple, which works well for me because I know how I like my kit to be laid out and how I want to pack my pack, how I want everything else to be organized. I know that I'm going to do that myself, so I don't want a pack that has all of that kind of organizational feature built into it. If you're someone that likes a pack that gives you lots of organization pre-built in, like you want to have internal pockets and all sorts of different aspects to it, then it probably isn't right for you. These kind of minimalist packs expect you to kind of figure that out for yourself. I mean, there is storage. It's got a lovely big mesh lycra pouch on the front. You have two side pockets. They're made of the same material as the main body of the pack, and they're really nice and strong, close easily. And then on the front, obviously, it's got sort of daisy chain webbing so that you can attach additional things onto it, as well as the waist belt it comes with being really simplistic. You can, as I say, buy aftermarket options that give you more storage, but the pack as it comes is really simplistic and minimal. So for me, that's a win. For you, that might not be. These are always going to be personal preference. The other thing to consider is when you're looking at a pack that's so light and it's so minimal, is it comfy? And my answer to that is 100% yes, it is. This pack, even on really long days when it's packed to the brim, I find very comfortable. Now, because it's frameless and there's no cushioning on the back panel, what you have to do is be considerate about the way that you pack your pack, because it's going to make a difference to how it feels against your back. Now, the easy way to do that is to take your sleeping mat, if you're out on an overnighter, your sleeping mat, and fold it up so that it's directly against your back, and then pack everything else after that, so that you're getting that nice cushion layer directly against your back. If you do that, really that pretty much is a win most of the time, and you're not going to have too many other issues. You do have to have a little bit of consideration to not, you know, have your fork or your spoon sticking directly outwards so it's jamming you in the back. But overall, you don't have to take so much care as people might think. It's just having a little bit of consideration when you're packing it, and quite quickly you'll find a way that works really well for you, and then that's it, you're done really. You know that that way works, and you can just do that in the future and replicate it. So I find it very, very comfortable. The other consideration with how comfortable it is the amount of weight that you pack into it. Really, the suggested weight for a pack like that, with the minimal waist belt that it comes with, is in the sort of maximum weight of like 7 to 9 kilograms, really max. And obviously the less, the more comfy it's going to be. If you use the aftermarket waist belt, which is much thicker and more padded, then you can go more like 9 to 11 potentially. Again, it's going to depend on your own, you know, what's comfortable for you, your own frame size and level of comfort carrying a bigger, heavier pack, because most of the weight's going to generally sit on your shoulders more than a frame pack. But yeah, those are the real positives on this pack. Overall, you know, the weight being the biggest one, and then everything else really tying into that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that aren't so good on this pack. The first thing, and probably one of the biggest things, is going to be the price. So when you're buying a pack, looking at spending somewhere around 200 euros, 200 pounds, and quite a bit more in dollars, is pretty considerable, and is going to be a limiting factor to many people, so that's completely understandable. I would say that what you get for the money is pretty good. It's extremely light, very well made, and overall is a pack that I think will last a long time for most people. In that same vein, one of the things that isn't that great about it is the lead times. So oftentimes with cottage manufacturers, you'll find that they don't have the item ready and available in stock. You have to order it and then wait to get it, and the lead times vary depending on how much demand there is, and that's the same with Bonfus. With most of their items, you'll find that they're not necessarily available in stock at the time when you go to order them, and you'll have to wait on the item depending on what their published lead time is, which can be quite frustrating, particularly if you're planning a trip or you're just wanting to buy something and hopefully have and use it straight away. So those two things are pretty annoying about it. The other thing that I really don't like about the pack is that it doesn't have an ice axe loop on it, or any sort of loop or attachment to carry ice axes or poles, which is pretty annoying. With walking poles, you can obviously kind of push them through into one of the side pockets, which is a bit easier, but with an ice axe, it's a lot trickier. So what I've done this year for the winter season is I've sewed on my own ice axe loop and then used DCF bonding tape to seal where I've stitched on the outside and the inside. I would not recommend doing that because, number one, it's a huge pain to try and stitch. And number two, you're probably not going to do a very good job of it, just like I didn't. I mean, I did a very good job in terms of it works well, and it doesn't look great, and I'm not sure how long it'll last. But if you want an ice axe loop, they don't do it on this version of the pack, which is quite annoying. So yeah, be aware of that, otherwise you're going to end up like me stitching your own one on. What the Bonfus options are for packs means that you can choose one of their other models, and they do have a lot more modifications available right up front when you order them. So one of the other bad things about this particular one, the Iterus 38L, is there aren't a lot of options when you order it to change it. You can basically choose the type of material, and that's about it. They might be willing to make a few other options if you emailed them, but they have other versions which are very similar, which you can modify a lot more. So you can change like the types of straps you've got on it. You can change more about like the waist belt or storage pockets on the bottom. You can put ice axe loops onto it. You can choose whether you want velcro up top or push studs. So there's a lot more modifications you can make to it when you choose one of the other options, but not so much with this one. The other big one is always a negative with any frameless ultralight pack is you need to be aware of how much weight you're carrying, because if you carry loads of weight and you just want to jam loads of kit in there and carry it, then it's not going to do that well. You need to think about how you're packing it and how much you're carrying. You need to be a lot more conscientious about those things, because it's going to affect the way it feels on your back, particularly on long days, but just in general. And that's pretty much most of the negatives. Not a huge amount, actually. It's a pretty good pack. I think overall, this is probably my favorite pack that I own. Of all of the packs that I've had and have currently, this is my go-to. Largely because it's so light, but also because it's so light and you get all those other things with that lightness, which is pretty cool. So the only other things that I'd mention about this pack that I think it's worth knowing are that the way that it comes as standard, there's not a lot of carry space so that you can access when you're actually hiking. There's not any hip belt pockets as standard. There's no pockets on the front of it. You know, there's nothing there. So personally, I like to be able to access things when I'm hiking without always having to take my pack off. And what I do is I use a chest pouch most of the time with this pack, which is pretty easy to clip onto the daisy chain on your shoulder straps, and then you can access all the bits of kit you want. If you buy the additional hip belt, which is padded for it, you can also then attach hip belt pockets. Bonfus do sell options themselves, and you can get other options too. You can also buy shoulder strap pockets for it and attach them pretty easily, so you can carry water up front, or you can get one for your phone. The Hyperlight mountain gear pouches work with it just fine, as do the ones that Bonfus make and lots of other manufacturers. So that's the main other thing, is just be aware that there's not storage up front accessible whilst you're hiking, and you want to probably add bits so that you can make that easier. Overall, I highly recommend the pack and Bonfus as a little company to check out in general. I love it. I think it's a really good pack, and I think if you haven't tried a frameless pack, there's always room to maybe check it out and try it. It's not going to suit everyone, and if you don't like frameless packs, or you find that an ultralight frameless pack isn't quite right for you, then another option that might be really good is the Hyperlight Mountain Gear Southwest, which we have a video on, so you can go check that out. I'd highly recommend giving that a watch. The only other things to say is thank you very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, we really appreciate you being here. And thanks for subscribing for all those people who do subscribe. If you don't, then think about doing that, because we've always got new content coming out all the time that's worth checking out. We're on Instagram for our daily adventures, of which there are often many. You can check us out at Outdoor Intrigue. And we appreciate you guys. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.